Okay, good afternoon. My name is Deane Cheatham, and this is Infinity Training Part 3 of the Personality Profiling series. So welcome. I hope you can get a lot out of this. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. If your microphone is muted, hey Barbara, you don't have to be muted. You can be for this part. I'd love for you to be able to answer some questions and sort of chime in. So tell me, why is it important? Why would we care about personality profiling as real estate agents? Why is that important?
To build rapport.
To be able to build rapport. Terry, that's excellent. What else? Why else would we care about that?
Maybe to be able to, fit to clients' needs.
Yeah, to be able to better interact with clients. Our company motto is treat people the way they want to be treated, and that's sort of like what the whole idea of personality profiling is all about. Because if I am a particular personality style and you are the opposite, then how well do you think we're going to bond initially?
Not well.
Not too well. Not too well. It's like oil and water, as some people use that analogy. When you have one personality style that's the opposite, it's just sort of like a clash. So what we want to be able to do is be able to determine what personality style, what kind of platform are the people we're dealing with, where are they coming from, and we also need to know where we're coming from. So one of the most important things that you can get out of this whole series is, which style am I? And really, this is oversimplified, because you could spend you could get a doctorate degree in personality profiling if you wanted to, and spend 4 or 5 years in graduate school with that. But for what we're looking at, we've sort of broken it down to 4 styles: amiable, analytical, expressive, and the driver style. We talked about the amiable style first. Those are people that really are relationship based, that they really care about how you feel, and that may be probably the most driving principle that they have. The next would be analytical. They are very data driven. They need to see information. They need to see tons of data. Everything has to be logical and make sense with them. Okay, those are the 2 that we've covered already. And the third we're going to get into today is the expressive personality. So the expressive personality, a couple things that just sort of give it away. All right. These are people that are very spontaneous. These are people that seek excitement. These are people that are easily distracted. And I guess they're the dreamers. Do you know anybody that might be like that?
Yep, got one down.
So these are folks that, one characteristic that I've seen of people that are expressive is they're unbelievable at diving in and getting busy right off the bat. I mean, they're going to be the first people to throw their hat in the ring when they're excited about something. And do you think they are really good at getting 100% of the job finished?
No.
No, it's just not in their nature. Why? Because something else comes down the pike that's more exciting.
Yeah, they can't stay focused.
Yeah. It's just, well, it's almost like you've seen people say squirrel, and then, hey, there, they're all fired up. Oh man, heck yeah, let's do, yes, bingo, I'm in. And then once you get in, then it's the idea and the dream of it maybe is more exciting than the actual doing it. And then when you get about 85% done, then it's like, well, let's move on to the next thing. So, as far as getting the 100% job done by themselves, these people, maybe that's not their thing. But we talked about spontaneity, so they're not necessarily needing to plan. Of the other groups that we've talked about, who would be the most likely to be into planning? Would they be amiable, the relationship-based people,
No.
or the analytical, those that are big on data and logic?
Analytical.
Yeah, analytical.
Analytical. Those are going to be, the analytical is the least spontaneous. How about emotion and feeling? Do you think expressive people, that emotion and feeling are important to them? Absolutely.
Yeah.
For the expressive personality, emotion and feelings and the dream, that's everything. That's everything. You can overcome, if you're expressive, the data is, that's okay, but I don't really have time for that. If it feels good, I want to do it. If I believe, I can achieve. That's the whole idea of the expressive. So I wrote down some other things. So expressive people, for the most part, they seek ego gratification. They like being in the limelight. They like the spotlight being on them, and they like the applause. They like the recognition. I already said they seek excitement. They're easily inspired, and they seek inspiration. So, for instance, when you're talking about somebody like a speaker like Zig Ziglar, or you're talking about a Tony Robbins seminar, who do you think a lot of people in the seats of those kind of things might be? The expressive people.
Yeah.
Do you think, not to say that analytical people don't sometimes enjoy inspiration, but that's almost everything for the expressive. They're going to buy in big time on that. Okay. When it comes to relationships, we talked about the amiable person being the one who really is talking about relationships. But the amiable is the quality of relationships, really more about you than about me. How do you feel? And versus the expressive is about, in a lot of ways, quantity of relationships. And again, every one of these is a little bit different. So you don't want to pigeonhole. If somebody's expressive, they may not do and express all of these characteristics, but a lot of expressive folks are one way to give it away is they're gonna play the name game big time with you, and just let you know who they know, right? When you go into the home of an expressive person, you might see pictures, or in an office, you might see pictures on the wall. And then we talked about the amiable person, you're going to see a lot of pictures, but those are going to be family pictures, right? Where an expressive person is going to have pictures that are going to be excitement pictures and pictures with maybe sports heroes. So if I'm expressive, maybe I got pictures of me and Michael Jordan, and then I've got a picture of when I went skydiving, and then I've got a picture of me, who knows, whatever the hell else, water skiing or something really exciting, versus, like a picture of me and my wife at a sunset or something. If it's an expressive person, it's not just going to be in the yard with the sun behind them. They're going to be in like Bora Bora with the sunset behind them. You see the difference there?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's one sort of way to pick off a expressive person. The best way is they can't stay focused on anything for very long. If you see people that are just bang, zoom, pew, expressive every time. All right. So I wrote down easily distracted with that. So what do you think if you were going to meet with somebody, let's say you had a listing appointment and you talked to them on the phone and pre-qualified them, and you could just tell they were all over the place. What are some things that you would not want to do during the listing appointment?
Bring out maybe the, analytical, like data items.
Okay, that's a great point, Jessica. You certainly wouldn't want to overdo it with the data. Like the expressive person, they're going to want to see, some comps. Do they want to see a couple, or do they want to see 1,500?
Yeah, just a couple.
Just a couple. Just give me enough to prove your point, and let's move on. Okay, let's get down to business. Versus the analytical is going to want to see, they're going to want to see these, and then they're going to want to review them. Does the expressive person need a lot of time for processing information? No, because as soon as that button clicks where it feels good, then clear the board, we're off. Okay. So, that's like, I was thinking about World War II, and I was thinking about kamikaze pilots. I would think that like most of the kamikaze pilots in Japan were probably expressive personality.
I guess
Spend a whole
so.
lot of time thinking about that. Maybe it doesn't make sense. But I guess, hey, I'm going to drink the sake and put on the headband and fly in a cool plane, and, maybe I'm not coming back. How come they didn't teach us how to land? They just taught us how to take off. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. So you wouldn't want to spend a lot of time with details with an expressive person. What else might you want to avoid during a meeting with somebody who's expressive? How about being long-winded?
Yeah.
You know, if you're on an appointment with somebody who is expressive, now the meeting may take longer than you expect, but is that because you've gone through a detailed analysis of the comparables and the market and all that? Or could it be because you couldn't shut them up because they were telling
Right.
stories about when they met, you know, whoever?
And listening.
So there's going to be a lot of potential talking and dreaming and going off on a tangent. Yet the business part of it is pretty much needs to be simplified and clear and simplified. And then once there's an agreement, then move on to whatever they want to talk about for a little while, just to bond, and then leave and get into business. How about low? Would expressive people be low energy or high energy people for the most part?
High energy.
Hi.
Right. So when you talk to somebody who's expressive, would you want to be monotone and talking slowly? Probably not. They cannot deal with that. Okay, so that just doesn't do it. So you probably want to increase your rate of speech, do you know what gesticulations are? Like talking with your hands and moving around. So people that are expressive, sometimes they do that more than others, but they probably react better to that because anything it's all emotion and energy and inspiration. And so moving around is part of it, and speaking with some energy helps do that, helps convey that. Any questions up to this point? Do we have a pretty clear idea of expressive people?
Mm-hmm.
So other ways to determine whether your clients, potential clients, whether they're expressive or not. So if you went into someone's office and you looked at their desk and you thought they might be expressive, what would their desk look like?
I would think cluttered.
Why?
Well, because they're probably working on multiple things at one time because they can't focus on one thing.
Exactly right. Let me just show you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I know because I'm pretty sure I'm just an expressive person.
There's my desk. That's 433 projects going on at one time. Now I wonder if I can put this thing back up here. Okay. So that is another dead giveaway. We talked last week about analyticals. An analytical environment might not be necessarily neat and organized to you. The difference is they know exactly where everything is. And I gave the example of being at a CPA's office. Why would a CPA be a dead giveaway for an analytical? Because all they do every day is look at numbers and data. Okay, so anybody who can do that for a living has probably got to be that personality type. Not 100% of the time, but over 90. So we went to this particular CPA's office and we were asking for some information, and the guy has stacks of files everywhere in the office. There's probably 1,400 stacks or 1,400 files stacked up in different stacks that are 3 feet tall. And we're like, well, what about the tax returns from 1996? And he's like, he comes back and right here, got them. Like, how in that? Well, there wasn't any label on the file, nothing. He just knew, so that's the difference. They both the analytical and the expressive could be a little disorganized, but the expressive, really what's on top is all that's in their mind. 3 things down from here. It's like, whoa, hey, I thought I finished that, but never quite got that. Our fourth group that we'll talk about next week, the driver, they're going to be a driver is going to have everything very minimalized and everything has a place. It's going to be task, boom, 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 complete and gone, versus what we're talking about now, the expressive, where it's going to be, multiple things in the process. All right, so listen, I'm going to read you some things that says these are expressive do's. These are things when you're dealing with somebody who's expressive, these are definitely things you want to do. Number one, plan interaction that supports their dreams and intentions. So frequently refer to their motivation and the dream. So if somebody is selling a house in order to move into a bigger home for their family, what are some things you might want to do? You might want to paint that picture. Gosh, can you imagine when we get out of this? I mean, it's tight in here, man. We're going to get you over there to that neighborhood. It's got the pool. It's got the tennis courts. You're going to see your kids. You're going to be swimming. You're going to be walking on the trail, and you're going to be doing a bigger house, and then you'll see, if with an expressive person, you'll know they're going to buy into it and they're going to be living the dream with you. So paint the picture of that dream and support their dreams and intentions. Number two, leave time for relating, socializing, and just general going down a tangent. And we spoke about why that is. Number three, talk about people and their goals. Talk about people that they feel like that they might be into, that they find inspiring and that they find their opinions to be, stimulating. Number four, don't deal with details. And I would put a side note, to an excessive degree, certainly. I mean, you got to have some details in what we're trying to do, but don't deal with the minutia. And quit when you are presenting to somebody who's expressive, you'll see when you lose them. Have you ever been in that situation? You can just tell, like, they're just move on right then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put the details, if you feel like you just got to get some details across, put those in writing and slide them across the table, like in bullet point forms, and say, number one, we're going to list the house. Number two, we're going to sell the house. Number three, you're moving to Las Vegas. I mean, maybe that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but you don't need to be, okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sit down at the table, and then we're going to get out our pad. And, they don't need to know all the BS. They just need to know the points and then move on. All right. An action plan. I think you want to be the one who is putting it out there. Again, bullet form is very good versus long-winded discussions about what it is. We're going to bang, 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 and boom. Can you feel how that's going to, doesn't that feel good? Would you use the word, doesn't that feel good, when you're working with a analytical?
Mm.
No.
Mm-mm.
Because feelings, not that they don't have feelings, it's feelings aren't how they think. Everybody has feelings, but they're not acting on feelings like an expressive person is. Analytical is acting on the data. I need to see the data. I need to look at it and make sure it all adds up. Amiable, it's more like, once I trust you, then do you feel good about it? And are you going to lead me? Can I trust you to lead me to where I want to go? Versus expressive is, maybe we're doing it together and it just sounds great and it feels good and let's get her done. Okay. I wrote down, use enough time to be stimulating, fun loving, and fast moving. All right, the next topic is about testimonials. Do you think testimonials are important for expressive people? Testimonials from other clients or people that know you?
I believe so.
Definitely, because especially if they know and respect the people, because hey, it's like if I had a door-to-door salesman come by and they had yeah, we work for your neighbors, Eugene and Bob, and so that that sort of built trust and whatever. I'm like, well, hey man, if they use them, then maybe I need to be using them. Maybe I'm missing out. So testimonials can be very good for this. Also with amiable people, testimonials can be good. I think testimonials can be, they're never going to be bad unless they're bad testimonials, but they're going to be valued much more by the amiable and the expressive than the analytical and the driver. So that's really the whole thing. So the ego gratification, you want to be pumping these people up. A lot of times you can sort of make them think that it was their idea. Like, what is it? You can sort of lead them and say, well, what kind of agent do you want? I want somebody who's going to get it done. Hey, I mean, that's a great idea. Wouldn't it be great if everybody thought like you? And just people getting things done. So that's really it for the expressive. You have a pretty good understanding of what that's all about?
Yes.
And let me review what we're trying to do here. So why is it important for you to be able to recognize these people so you can relate better to them? However, if you don't know where you're coming from, then this whole thing really doesn't make sense. You have to know how people perceive you, and then you need to become more like them. So let me give you an example here. So if you're expressive and you're going to somebody's home who you know is analytical, what are some things that you need to tone down about you? So you're expressive and you're going to somebody's house who's analytical. What do you need to do differently that's against your nature?
Sit on your hands so you don't talk with them all the time.
So sit on your hands, right?
Yeah.
So maybe tone down. If you're high energy and that would be a smart thing. Okay, what else?
Have your data.
Okay, you want to have your data, but how have the kind of data that makes you feel good?
No, probably the data that proves what I'm getting ready to do in a short.
Not for if you're expressive and you're going on an appointment with an analytical, you're going to want to take more data than you could possibly imagine. I mean, for you, if you're expressive,
Okay.
why would I need more than one or two comparables? But for the expressive, for the analytical, they're going to need more than that. So you would provide more data and information than would be in your nature to carry.
Yeah, that's a millennial for sure. They love data.
Well, if they're analytical, if there are millennials that are not analytical. So the other thing you'd want to do is you'd want to have an outline to keep you on target. Because if you're expressive, your tendency is to zoom, zoom, zoom. What does the analytical think of zoom, zoom, zoom? They hate that.
Irritating.
They hate that. They want to stay on target and on focus. So you need to have an outline of your appointment so that you can stay on target with that. I guess the other thing is we talked about, being talk a little bit slower, a little less energetic. You don't want to be closing. Probably the easiest person to close on the spot is the expressive, because once it feels good, they're ready to go. The analytical is probably the most difficult person to close on the spot because they need time to process their information. So be careful about closing too hard on analyticals. So again, the whole thing here is called versatility. Once you know where you're coming from, you want to move towards the people that you are trying to interact with. So I need to be if I'm expressive, I need to be as amiable as I can possibly be if I'm dealing with somebody who's amiable. If I'm expressive and I'm trying to deal with somebody who's analytical, I need to become a little bit more analytical. I am expressive. Okay, so one of the things that I do every time when I go on an appointment with an analytical person, when I sit down, I have an outline that I give them a copy and I have a copy, and then I ask them, hey, would it be okay if I take very detailed notes during this appointment? Why would I say that?
Because he's analytical. He thinks you're interested in what he has to say.
And exactly, Terry, and he thinks I'm like him. Man, this dude is like me, and I like me, so I must like him. So we're trying to get over the moat, we're trying to get inside the castle, inside the walls, because people naturally are sort of trying to, maybe they're a little bit on guard. But if I'm a little bit more like you, I can never be totally analytical, but I can throw out a few little tendencies that might make people say, you know, this guy's probably all right. Let's hear what he has to say. Does that make sense to you? So again, wherever you are is the most important. So is it, I asked this question last week. In determining what your personality type is it more important to recognize what you think your personality type is, or more important to determine, or more important to recognize what other people think your personality type is? So what's real, what you think or what other people think of you?
What other people think of you.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct. Some of us, I think once we study this, then we sort of think, well, gee, I think it'd be cool to be a driver. I think it would be cool to be whatever. And that's fine. But when you really break this down, you need to know how other people perceive you so that you know where you're coming from. And then you can be more versatile and move towards where they are. So I have a little test that I will send out. This is, if you've ever taken this class live, we do this test. And you take this on yourself. And then if you want to, you can give this to a couple people that know you pretty well and see what they do, and then compare the scores that they give you to what you gave yourself. And sometimes it's quite shocking. I went to a 3-day sort of workshop on this. And before we went, they made us send this out to 25 people. And a lot of people totally misinterpreted who they were, because all of their friends saw them as one thing and they saw themselves as something different. So I think that would be helpful. Does anybody have any questions?
I do real quick, Deane.
All right.
What is your suggestion to reel in, so to speak, an expressive person when you're trying to get the deal closed, you're trying to get paperwork done, and they're off chasing squirrels?
Yeah, that's a challenge, Davina. That is a challenge. Reminding them of the motivation. So if you do this, then you get the shiny object, right? Like, no shiny object if you don't do this, right? So that, and that's hard. It's easier to say that than to actually do it. But I think you need to remind. So back to the thing where they want the bigger house in the neighborhood with the pool and the tennis courts, So Bob, Mary, I know this is a pain in the neck, and maybe you can ask them, what's the best way for me to get you to focus on signing the documents and getting the plat to me? What's the best way? Well, I don't know, man. I'll do it, but I want to do this and this. And whoa, man, did you see that? What was that? Well, look, if we don't do this, how's it going to feel if the summer comes and your kids aren't swimming in the pool and you're not walking on the trail and the twins don't have their own bedroom? How's that going to feel? So try to dangle the reward, and even sometimes tell them you can sort of motivate them with pain too. If you don't do this, then you're going to be not in such a good situation, and it might be a little painful. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else had a question, I think, too. Maybe they didn't. All right. Well, thanks for being here. That was pretty quick, 30 minutes. We'll do this again next week, same time, same channel, and we'll talk about the driver personality, which is pretty cool. And then we'll try to wrap things up and finish up and answer any questions. If you need the test, this test right here, here's what you need to do. Reply via email to me. You can just reply to the link that I sent out for the, just reply to me. Don't reply all, but reply to me. Hey, send me the test and I'll send you a copy of it. How does that sound?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for being here.